Welcome back to Old School Eats. I'm Derek Old School Fournier, and on this video, we're going to be doing one of my family's favorites, Cupcake Chicken. Many people are familiar with Cupcake Chicken. Myron Mixon popularized this back when he was on the tour, and I think he's actually back in there in Memphis in May, which is exciting. You guys have seen in my other videos that I went to classes there, and I attribute my love of barbecue and smoking to Myron and his class. Well, when I got the recipe for Cupcake Chicken, it was one of the recipes that my family, specifically my wife, loved. And by the way, I'm filming this on Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Cupcake Chicken is an attempt to keep chicken thighs uniform, beautiful, moist, and flavorful. And there's a bunch of ways you can do it. And if you go on YouTube, there's a bunch of ways people have done it. I'm going to show you the way that I learned with Myron. And it starts with our thighs. Now, these thighs, and I'll inset this in the video, were bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs, which I deboned, which I'll show you. And then I brined overnight. Now, Myron has a great brine recipe you get from his class with all of the fresh vegetables. You let it sit for days, and it's fantastic. I didn't have that time, so I used a good chicken stock and I added equal parts sugar and water and made a brine, and I brined these overnight after I tenderized them from the meat side, not from the skin side. And from there, we're gonna put them in these cool little silicone muffin pan looking things with holes in the bottom that allow steam to come up or heat to come up from the bottom. We'll put them in the smoker and we'll get them treated up. So we're in the home kitchen and we're Sans cameraman again. So I'm gonna do the best I can. For our Cupcake Chicken, we use, as I mentioned earlier, chicken thighs. Now, bone in, skin on. I got my chicken thighs from Costco. I'll put an inset. I like their chicken thighs a lot. The packages, I wasn't sure, but they came 4 to a package. I'm doing 12 thighs. One of the challenges you will find is your thighs will be very different. And in this package, which I have here, 12 thighs, they range in size and amount of skin across the board. So what we're gonna have to do is clean these guys up, trim some of this extra skin off, which makes the fat guy in me cry. And I heard someone today say that you can crisp those up in an air fryer, which sounds fat to some of you, but also sounds delicious to some of you, which I am absolutely going to do. So I'm going to trim the fat off of some of these guys. I'm going to use my poultry shears to get in here a little bit. Myron, in his recipe, leaves the bone in. He takes the knuckles off and leaves the bone. He likes food with a handle. And there's certainly a lot of logic to that. My wife likes deboned. So I'm going to debone all these chicken thighs so we can get them prepped up and ready to go into the muffin pans. All right, so we're back. I've got the chicken thighs taken out of their brine. They brined overnight. I mentioned this was just a basic chicken stock with equal parts salt and sugar. And I had used this really cool puncher, it's probably a really fancy name for it, to tenderize the meat side only, but not the skin. Now we're using Mixon seasonings here. This is a Mixon recipe, and I typically use a lot of Cosmo Q, but I'm going to be using 2 primary. I've got his 3 primaries, which are his hickory rub, his original barbecue rub, and then his honey money cluck. For this recipe, I don't use the hickory. I usually use the hickory when I do beef. But we're going to season the meat side of these thighs with both his original and his honey money cluck. And we're going to stuff them in these little muffin pans and pour the stock around them. Then we'll put them on the cooker, and we'll cover that when we get outside. So here's one of our thighs. It's really straightforward and simple. I will get a little seasoning on this side. And you don't season the front side now, primarily because you're gonna have the moisture coming up from the stock or the broth that's cooking in the cooker in the pan. So you really just wanna get a decent amount of seasoning on the outside. I've seen some people inject at this point, which doesn't make any sense to me for chicken. Now these were some big booby chicken. So they're gonna go over the outside, which is okay. They will compress a bit as they cook. But in a given pan, you want to try and get thighs. I think boobies wrong, they're thighs. Got my anatomy all wrong. But you want to have them roughly the same size so they cook at about the same pace. But you really just stuff them into their little receptacle. Now, I've seen on the YouTubes, people go out there and do crazy things, like I said, like inject chicken thighs, which again, not my thing. If that's your thing, love to know the rationale. I don't think that chicken thighs can really support injection. I've also seen people tuck butter in the top of this, which seemed kind of interesting. I don't do that. That's not how I was taught to do it in the class. And I tend to be a bit of a purist. I'm going to do this whole set of 6. And yes, I have a problem with consistency. I've seen people do like just 4 and leave 2 of these pans open. That makes my heart hurt. So I'm not going to do that. But then I'll do the other guys and get all these out on the cooker. So I got my man Drew on the camera today. So I've got a non-fixed camera. Hopefully that's helping you guys out. As you see, we got some of the larger thighs in this set, the smaller thighs in this set, and all we have left to do, they've all been seasoned up. We're gonna pour some stock around the side. You don't wanna wash all your seasoning off, so you don't wanna go in the actual cups. Though I've done it both ways, and I gotta admit, I don't know that I notice a huge difference. I'm gonna put about a quart into this pan, this half pan. I'll go about halfway up the side of the muffin. And I'm probably gonna hit it with another little shot of seasoning over the top before we put it into the cooker. When we get out to the cooker, we're gonna be using our Bark 2400 today at about, ooh, I made a spill, awesome. I'll explain the cook process there. We're gonna be about 275 degrees for this cook. All right, we're out in the meat palace, and it is getting hot down here in Florida. We've already had it get up to around 95, 96 degrees. We'll see how the summer goes with our videos with the temperature like that. So we've got both pans of cupcake chicken ready to go. They're gonna go in our Bark 2400 at 275 degrees. We're gonna cook them for about an hour and a half. That should get them to an internal of about 150. And at that point, you'll see what we do. But I see a lot of people use their tongs and sort of twist them in these containers or pull them out. I've always made it more complicated than that for some reason, but I get them out so that the bottom side is up, and we cook them for about another 30 to 45 minutes, and then we'll do some more work with some sauce I think you're gonna find interesting. Let's get these guys on the cooker. All right, we're back out in the meat palace, which has been inundated with love bugs. Again, if you're not a Floridian, you probably don't know this pain, but it is my pain. An hour and a half at 275. Our cupcake chicken looks great. This is where I always try and do something fancy, like flip them over all at once. I've seen other people use tongs, and that works out pretty well for them. And you know what? As it turns out, it does. Once I get these guys out on these racks, I'm gonna have Drew come over here with his camera.
Right now?
Yeah, come on over here, Drew.
I'll get right here.
Get so that you can see the actual chicken.
Oh, these look good.
So this is sort of halfway through. There's a love bug. Definitely trying to get exactly where I don't want him to be.
Yeah, they've been climbing in and out of our pans. One right there, Dad, be careful.
Yep. So this had a little skin flop over, which is okay. You really want that skin to be down like a shield almost. We're gonna put 6 of these on each of these trays. Drew, can you come around to this side so you can actually see the chicken and not go through everything else? Thank you.
Yeah. They look like biscuits.
They do look a little bit like biscuits. We're gonna season these guys up. And this is one of those areas where I think it does matter to spend a little bit extra time. A little bit of the wind can help you. You don't want it just to be on the very, very top. Very, very top. This is the Honey Money Cluck from Myron. And because it has honey, I assume, it does gum up a little bit. Same as the honey-based or the sugar-based seasonings. So we're gonna get these guys all seasoned up. Give them a little bit of a turn around here to get on the side because you don't want to miss the sides. And then they're going to go back on there for 30 to 45 minutes before we start what's called the glaze phase. So we're going to get those done, do the other 6, and come back and hopefully have killed all the love bugs in all of the country.
Woohoo!
One of the most important parts about cupcake chicken is actually the glaze. And Myron teaches us how to use this glaze. We actually use 2 different sauces and a couple of other ingredients. I was down vinegar sauce. Normally you use vinegar sauce and a hickory sauce in a 1-to-2 ratio, but since I didn't have vinegar sauce, I'm just going to double up on the actual hickory sauce, which will make it a little bit sweeter profile. But the magic really is in the preserves, and I'll go through that here in a second. So the original recipe is 1 cup of vinegar to 2 cups of hickory, and I cut all of these in half, so we're really just going to cut all that down. I'm going to use all hickory sauce, add that to the pot. Now, when we add these to the pot, it's a very sweet sauce. We're going to want to bring this up to a gentle heat, combine all the ingredients. One of the things you can do is you can leverage a blender to get that really silky texture. I find that you can do this over a low heat, and with the apple juice, you can get that same consistency or close enough to that consistency without dirtying up a blender with a fork. So here you see us going in with 1/4 cup of honey to add to the sauce. We'll follow the honey up with apple juice, which really cuts this down and creates that glaze-like consistency, because we're not going to cook this down. We're going to combine it. We're going to make it really silky, but we're not going to cook it down to get the moisture out. So we need a little bit more fluid in there to allow this to act like a real glaze. And once we do that, we'll clean out our mixing cup with the apple juice, and then I will attack the seedless blackberry preserves in this case. But one of the ways you can really add your own creativity is you could use peach marmalade, orange marmalade. You don't want something with chunks in it necessarily, unless you're going to use the blender. But grape, really, however you want to doctor up your chicken. This is where the people eating your chicken are going to wonder where the hell the flavor came from. So we'll combine that in there. We're going to bring this up to a relatively low temperature, and I'm going to use a fork to combine it, because I find that a whisk can sometimes be a bit of a struggle. Once I get it the consistency that I want on the stove, I'll put it on the cooker to maintain that consistency, and then I can treat the chicken with it. Normally, I would use a taller side pan that I could dunk the cupcakes all the way down into. In this case, I ended up having a more shallow pan, and you'll see that when I actually dress the chicken, I use a spoon to ladle it more or less over the chicken, but it can work either way. And I just really aggressively work in the preserves to get the consistency that I want. Hopefully this voiceover wasn't too bad. All right, so we're gonna try and work around these things. We've got our glaze, which looks fantastic. Normally I would just dunk these guys in the glaze and get it all over them, but I don't have a deep enough pot this time, so I'm gonna do a little bit more brute force. You can certainly dunk these guys in and get the glaze all over, but you want that glaze to get nice and shiny. There's so much sugar in it. The chicken's already up more or less to temperature. You know, your thighs, you want to get about 165 after they've carry over cooked. It's up to you how you want to handle your temperatures. I know some people are incredibly picky about that. Others are less picky. But these were about 160 when they came off. After about that secondary cook, which I thought would take 30 minutes, actually took closer to about 45. And like I said, when I do these in a large batch, I will normally dunk them all the way in. But you're really just doing a glaze. And we're going to use the leftover as the sauce. So once I get all these guys coated, they're going to go back on for about 8 minutes to set your sauce. That's a little note as well. You don't need to have sauced items on for a long time. The sauce sets relatively quickly. Get that love bug out of there. I'm going to use this glove on this side. Get them back on the cooker for 8 minutes, and then we'll be ready to cut into them and see what they taste like. We're inside from Love Bug Apocalypse, no longer having to contend with those bugs around us. We've got our cupcake chicken here. I've got them back on the racks. Put a couple of them on the cutting board. We'll do a cut in here, and Drew and I will give a taste test. Let you guys know how it turned out. He can probably get some good pictures of the glaze. You can tell that the sheen is where you want. Cut right into them. Pull that forward. What's nice is, because of the two-phase cook, the skin doesn't get crispy, but it definitely gets to the point where it's bite through. It's not chewy, which is nice. There are all sorts of techniques you can use. See how it's pulling when I cut with I'm just using the basic steak knife. You could also crisp that up more, but I'll give it a first bite, see what we think of. Chicken thighs are the best part of the chicken. That is irrefutable. The brining added a ton of flavor to the chicken itself. Cooking it with the broth, fantastic. The moisture is great. Got some good smoke on it. Light smoke, but good smoke. And the glaze adds the sweetness that's fantastic. Drew, you want a bite?
Sure, yeah.
This is Drew on camera. Drew taking a bite of the cupcake chicken.
That's good.
All right. What do you think? Now, you're not a protein guy.
That is really good. I really like the sauce flavor, because it's the one you put like multiple stuff in it, right?
Yep.
I can taste that like apple juice and some of the like fruit jelly, whatever.
Yeah, the preserves, the seedless preserves.
I can taste some of that. That's really good. I also don't usually like chicken. There's a lot of fat in it.
Right.
but
There's not a lot of fat in
I
chicken.
like-
You just don't like any fat and any protein,
Right.
but that's okay. Thank you
I
for
like
being the
this.
cameraman and for trying it out. Well, that's it for Cupcake Chicken. I hope you guys enjoyed it. There's a ton of things you can do to make it your own, including the glaze. Most notably, that's the easiest way to do it. As always, if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, hit the bell, all those magical things you YouTube people do. Love to see your comments down below. If you've cooked this yourselves, like you don't have to pull the bone out all the way. You can do these for any chicken thighs. You can make them as fancy or as not fancy as you want. But I think that the style really provides a great chicken dish, and the glaze is really where it kicks up a notch. So thanks for tuning in to Old School Eats. We'll see you next time.